Now we come to our third guest, who is Verena Youssef. I'd like to, yes, I want to introduce her now to you. She's a very active member of two Egyptian Coptic Christian churches, St. John and St. Verena, in Huntingdale and in Oakleigh. We understand that in their church community, they have children, youth, and young families participating very actively, and she's promised to share what their community does to keep them all so involved. So thank you, Verena, and we look forward to hearing how you manage this.
Hey everyone, sorry. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'll just make one little slight correction because my friends are probably going to kill me if I don't make this correction. I attend St. Verena and St. John's, actually one church, but it's named after two saints and it's located in Armadale. So I apologize if I miscommunicated that, but my friends are going to slaughter me if I mess it up and characterize a church. So thank you again so much for having me.
I apologize.
No, it's not you. It's probably my bad. So thank you so much again for the lovely introduction. So I'll just a little bit about myself. Yes, I can confirm that we're sharing the screen. Is that correct? Okay, awesome. So a little bit about myself. My name is Verena. I am 21 years old and I am Coptic Orthodox Christian. I was born in Egypt and my family and I migrated to Australia in the year 2008. I'm a baptized Christian. I've been a Coptic Orthodox member since birth. And I am really honored to speak about and humbled to speak about my faith and my community and how we keep the youth and young families actively engaged in the church, because that is something that we're very proud of, especially being a migrant community as well. Church is really where we all connect, we all bond over our commonalities, and that is being, a member of an ancient Christian church. And that is probably my first memory in Australia, that being connecting to a Coptic church and having people that spoke my language and looked like me. And I felt a little bit less foreign because of that community. So I'm very thankful for the Coptic church here in Australia specifically. So I'll just let us all know a little bit about the Coptic Orthodox Church. So sometimes when you speak to people about the Orthodox Church in Australia, they'll think the first church that will appear in their minds is the Greek Orthodox Church, which is definitely a very prominent Orthodox church that I'm very grateful to know many friends from. But there are also many other Orthodox churches, and that being the Coptic Church. So the word Coptic is derived from the Greek language. And so a little bit about Egyptian history. So during the ancient pharaonic times, there was a beautiful practice of language and music. And eventually ancient Egyptians were speaking this Coptic language, and it's actually a blend of a bit of Greek and the ancient Egyptian language. So the Copts pretty much mean Egyptian, and we are the indigenous people of Egypt. And we are the descendants of, simply put, the descendants of ancient Egyptians, and who were once practicing a polytheistic religion. So that means a religion that worships many gods. And in the year around 42 AD, the apostle St. Mark came and started preaching the good word and the gospel to us. So after Jesus ascended, so as a Christian, I believe in Jesus Christ. After he ascended, a lot of the apostles traveled around the world, and they started getting involved in evangelism, and they started spreading the word of God. And St. Mark came to Egypt and realized that there was hope for monotheistic faith, because there were people that had a little bit of an idea about it. And eventually his people started gravitating towards the Christian faith and were baptized, and the church grew. And that's why we call our faith the apostolic faith, because it was founded by an apostle. It is one of the oldest and most ancient Christian church there is. And despite its beautiful indigenous roots to the Egyptian homeland, we have faced a lot of persecution. We only now make 9 to 10% of the Egyptian population, And we have faced a lot of persecution through historic and modern times, whether it's under Roman emperors, regimes, different presidents, the caliphates, etc. So we've withstood 2,000 years of persecution, and that's why it's referred to as the Church of the Martyrs and one of the largest persecuted Christian minorities in the Middle East. But despite all of this, our faith is something we're very proud of, and we stand by to this day, regardless of what stands in our way. This is just a little excerpt from one of my favorite hymns. It's called My Coptic Church. It was originally in Arabic and translated English. So it gives a little brief musical history and insight into the Coptic Church, how it started off in Egypt through St. Mark, and because of our faith, we were beaten and imprisoned, we lived in oppression, we were burnt, killed. And despite all of this, we still overcame tribulations and were always stood by our faith. So when we say we're the Church of Martyrs, martyrs means a witness. So we're witnesses to Christ, and we refuse to deny our faith regardless of the incentive of the ramification of actually standing by our faith. So that's why we refer to ourselves, and many other churches would say that they also have a long history of martyrdom as well. So now to get into the community aspect of the Coptic Church. When I first heard about the talk, I was trying to think about how to explain this involvement, because the love for service and involvement starts from the beginning of your life cycle. It starts off as a child. Your parents ingrain that in you. They know that they're going to raise you in a church, like your house is a church. You know, the two parents are there to raise their children in a God-fearing manner, to love God and obey Him, and to love the church. So it really is an ever-evolving life cycle. And I was trying to think of the community, because I think there are different age demographics and different positions in the community. So we'll have the children, the youth, the elderly, the young couples, the couples they're about to get married, recently married couples, priests, servants, disciples, missionaries, grandparents. There are so many people that form the community, and what bonds us together is our love for Christ, the sacraments, the services, and that sense of fellowship. So I'm going to speak a little bit about specifically, I'll touch on more on the children's aspect of things and the youth aspect of things, because I'm only 21. I'm not yet to be married, nor am I an elderly, but I'm very lucky to work and serve with other servants who are involved in that service. But the best thing about what I love about my church is that it's always super, super busy. There are always services on there nonstop. You can never not be at church. Every day you find yourself. During the pandemic, you're definitely on Zoom every day, and before the pandemic, you find yourself somehow at church. We have liturgies almost daily, Bible studies for different ages, different groups. We've got youth meetings. I think the most hectic day for any youth member is the Saturday. It starts off with servants meetings. So if you're a youth who's serving younger kids in Sunday school, which is a program I was speaking about a little bit later, you start off your day at 3:30. Sunday school starts at 4:30. Then there is Vespers, which is a service that prepares us for the liturgy the next day. There is youth meeting, and then midnight praises. And normally after youth meeting, you'll find us at the nearest restaurant eating our hearts out, and probably having some random burger competition down the road. So there's definitely a lot to keep us involved in, a lot to do. And we're very, very busy. And that's because we believe that when we're always together and we're in fellowship, Christ is always in our midst. And that's pretty much the verse I've put here under our church program. So children, so the church always, like I said, the home is the church, and then the actual church, the institution, always does its part to help raise the children in a God-fearing manner and to educate children on church values. There are so many services available to children. So before I graduated year 12, I was still always at church. We had Sunday school. I had and I still have a spiritual father, so a priest that I would consider as my second father, someone I go to for spiritual advice. There are children Bible studies. My favorite part of the year, church camps. There's always just your own church camp, and then there's a convention, which is pretty much all the Coptic churches in Melbourne getting together once a year and having a massive camp, and it's loads and loads of fun. A lot of interactive initiatives. We've started to utilize the media technology available to publish digital books and kind of record videos for children explaining, a Bible character or a church story, and we act it out, and they can just access with their phones by scanning a QR code. So definitely trying to utilize all the platforms available, because kids are very much advanced right now. They're much more advanced than me. So trying to make, digitalize the spiritual resources and make sure it's easily accessible. Right now, children are in school holidays. So we have a school holiday program at the moment via Zoom, and if it wasn't for the pandemic, would have an in-church program as well. But I think what starts off any, the most defining experience in a child's life at church is Sunday school. So I remember my parents took me to Sunday school from probably I was back in Egypt, so we're in KG1, like pre-kindergarten, pre-prep. And I started attending Sunday school from that age group until I finished year 12. And what Sunday school is that it's not always on Sunday, even though it's called Sunday school. It depends on the church's program. Sometimes it's on Saturday. Back in Egypt, it was on Fridays and Sundays, depending on people's weekends, because the country has 2 different weekends. It's quite interesting. And it's pretty much a program for young kids based off their ages. They get together once a week. There is always a set curriculum for that age group to cover needs, to cover social topics, to cover spiritual topics. And they get together about for 2.5 hours every weekend. And they get given a lesson about a church topic. They might have a lesson about or a debate or a panel speaking on a social topic. And we just make sure that we cover a lot of their spiritual needs and address topics that they may be curious about. And I think now this generation is extremely curious. There's always a lot of questions, and it's just best to address it from a very transparent, educated manner than them sourcing their answers from elsewhere that could be completely wrong and mischaracterized. So Sunday school started actually back in the 1900s, and it started off by this man right here. His name is Archdeacon Habib Girgis, and he was a young man who's an archdeacon. He's a Coptic man who really valued education. He valued learning. He was someone that was very involved in church history. He was a student at theological college. He had a deep love for writing books and learning about the church values. And he realized that there was a void, and that the young children didn't have the necessary foundations to grow spiritually. And he thought of Sunday school. And it was a very small idea, but it pretty much spread like wildfire. And now it's so prominent. It's in every church all around the world. Like, everyone knows that if you go to church, you're going to attend Sunday school. And this was at a time as well where Christian education wasn't integrated in the Egyptian education system. And even though it's integrated today, it's not to the extent that we would love it to be. But he just wanted to make sure that children had a chance to interact with their brothers and sisters in Christ, that they were able to learn about Orthodox values. And he did that all through Sunday school. So just a little bit about his love for learning and education. He was also a religious teacher. He served many popes, and he was a very intelligent man. And he was the highest ranking graduate of the seminary's first graduating class of 1898. So Archdeacon Habib Girgis had a vision, and through a lot of prayer and hard work, God guided him towards the establishment of Sunday school. And it was, like I said, it was established in the year 1900. He designed that curriculum, and they used to have a council or a committee of Sunday school teachers just to make sure that what they're teaching is uniform and it's in line with church values. Because at the end of the day, it's not some motivational individual topic that you're going to be hearing about every week. It is something that reflects the church values, and it's in unison with the Coptic Orthodox values. And it pretty much within a few years, it was very common in every church And that's why I'm very thankful today to have had Sunday school and to have had experienced that throughout my childhood, because that's where I learned my Bible story. That's where I learned about my faith, where I learned Coptic hymnology. So despite the years of persecution, we've persevered and we've preserved the Coptic language. And our church is a very musical church full of beautiful hymns and rites, and that's where I learned all of these things, and I learned the Coptic language. So I'm very thankful for Sunday school, and Sunday school has always been very fun. So every summer, like I said, we would have convention, church camps, would have church holiday programs. We also had this competition or festival, we like to call it a competition because we're a bit competitive, called the Summer Festival, and it was established by His Holiness Pope Shenouda, which is not the current Pope, but the preceding Pope. And he just wanted a festival and an event to unite all the Copts in each diocese or in each country or in each state. And he wanted them to come about, learn the Bible study, learn church history, dogma, rituals, lives of saints, church hymnology in a fun, interactive way. And what was the best way, he thought, was having this festival and having mini competitions. And now we have also, besides the spiritual aspect of things, we have sport events with other churches where the kids get together, verse each other in some soccer, basketball, netball games. It's all fun. Everyone gets a trophy by the end of it because, we were all winners in God's eyes. But it's just a super fun way for kids to learn about the church faith. And even as a youth, we do it until now, and it's probably the best. It's a highlight of my summer every year. This is a photo of our current Pope, His Holiness Pope Tawadros. This is a photo of St. Mark the Evangelist, who founded the Coptic Orthodox Church. This is a little image of the Coptic Cathedral in Egypt. And every year, this program has a theme that the curriculum echoes, and it's also in age groups. So it's pretty fun to be a Coptic Christian, a young Coptic Christian for sure. Now, as a youth member, so after graduating from Sunday school, you would think life is boring, but no, we have a lot of initiatives that keep us involved in the church. So we have youth meetings. Like I said, it's normally every Saturday night in my church, but every church has their own schedule where we get together, again, talk about deep, important theological topics or social topics. We get together in fellowship. We have fun activities after, whether it be movie night, cooking competition, going out to a restaurant, whatever it is. We're just always together as a group. Like all my family and friends are, people from church that I spend my weekends with on a weekly basis. We still have the summer convention, but we also have a chance to now serve in the church. So now we've spent years in Sunday school. Our faith has been enriched and developed, and we have the opportunity to now serve kids in Sunday school. So it is that cycle that I keep speaking about. And for us to serve, if we wish to serve, because service takes form in various ways, but for us to serve, we can undertake a discipleship course that equips us with the necessary theological understandings. And not just that, but also a lot of focus on child development and psychology. Since we are working with children, we need to understand that each age group has different needs, and there are different ways to approach them when you're educating them. I've been a Sunday school servant for only 2 years now, and it's an experience where you learn things so much from the kids, and it helps you spiritually grow. And I've been serving the year 9s and 10s, so the very curious bunch, but I'm very thankful that they have that avenue, because I think now in a world where it's very much anti-faith, anti-religion, it's good not to feel isolated and to feel connected with a community that is like-minded. And through youth meetings, then I would think youth meeting plants the seeds for other youth initiatives like soup kitchen, Bible studies. We reach missionary trips. We have a lot of missionary trips and work in Fiji and the Solomon Islands. We have an orphanage there, schools and churches there, and the youth often visits these islands on a yearly basis. But again, COVID has thrown a spanner in the works. But nevertheless, we always keep in mind that even though we are one community under the church roof, there is a bigger community out there to serve, regardless of their religious status. And we're always trying to do our best to be ambassadors of Christ and to help those that are most vulnerable. And we do that through missionary as well. And that all again comes from the youth meeting, where we plan ideas and we plan fundraising initiatives. And I guess it's just a good avenue to facilitate those other initiatives as well. We also try to jump on podcasts, apps, etc., where we can, again, digitalize spiritual content and social content, and give it out there to anyone who has an access to an iPhone or a laptop, whether Christian or non-Christian, Orthodox or non-Orthodox. So youth meeting is pretty much where it's just a seed, and then every other initiative is the branch is planted out. And the reason why the Coptic Church emphasizes on youth and focuses so much on youth involvement is because we know that the youth is the future of the church. So His Holiness Pope Shenouda, who was the mastermind behind the summer festivals, once said, "A church without a youth is a church without a future, and a youth without the church is a youth without a future." So we know that considering we're an ancient faith, there could have been many opportunities where we died out, but we didn't. We were always strong with our faith, and that's because younger generations have kept their faith and they can pass it on to their children as well. We know that for the church to continue and for the community to grow, the youth need to be at the forefront of it all, because we have so much potential and we have a chance to impact future generations and keep that cycle going. And I also know as a young youth, I wouldn't be grounded and I wouldn't have a love for Christ and have the supportive community I have today without the church and God. I would feel a big hole in my heart if I didn't have my religion and my community. And I see that when I'm studying at university, a lot of people long for that sense of community and long for that sense of spirituality. And they try to manufacture it in different ways and they fail miserably. And I'm lucky I have that avenue, and I hope to share it with as many people as possible. So after you finish youth, some people in that age group start, getting into relationships, etc. And there are a lot of young couples who are about to get married, and the church values the importance of marriage, because marriage is, it is a sacrament. And so marriage is a sacrament. Sorry, I was just reading the comments. I think it was a mistake I made with one of the dates. Thank you, Shashi. I really apologize for that. So we believe a sacrament is a sacred mystery. And when you get married with your partner, with your spouse, you become one. You become one in Christ. And when you have children, you raise them in a Christ-like manner. And there are a lot of resources available for young couples in preparation for marriage, because marriage is a big deal. Unfortunately, society has diluted the meaning and the importance of marriage, but it's a very big promise to make, and you have to be equipped spiritually, mentally for such a commitment. So the church has premarital counseling available for a lot of young couples, and also for couples who are recently married. There is a lot of young couple meetings available, because marriage is not easy, and the first couple of years tend to be very challenging for many people. So we have these avenues available to make sure that people don't feel alone in their relationship journey, and to always remind them to put God in the midst of their relationship. But there are also a lot of resources on social aspects of marriage as well. And this is a really beautiful photo of a Coptic marriage ceremony. You're both wearing crowns, and you put your heads together in front of the altar, and that is kind of marks the point where you become one in God's eyes. So it's just a really beautiful photo. A lot of beautiful royal dressings as well. It's a very important and a beautiful sacrament. So after that, you get married, so you become, most likely, a lot of people become a parent. So then again, you repeat that cycle. When you become a parent, you have kids, and then you want to take your kids to Sunday school, just how your parents took to Sunday school, and that cycle continues. But of course, being a parent is very difficult, and the church understands that. That's why we have Sunday school, and we have programs for different children's age groups and different needs, so parents don't feel alone raising their children. And there are a lot of parent development courses as well. And a lot of young couples and parents have a spiritual father, that sort of like a counselor that they go to speak about problems they have, or just to seek spiritual guidance on a lot of topics. And there are also a lot of Bible studies for parents, a lot of other initiatives for parents, young family camps. So always reminding people that they're not alone, and there's so many ways that they can feel connected, and they also get involved, because a lot of these parents then serve in Sunday school or serve in any other church service as well. So we just keep the cycle going as much as we can. And it's just a beautiful way for you to gain so much, but also to give back. So just a couple of verses about, the importance of a family and a Christ-like family, and the importance of parents to be, to always put God in the center of their family and their home. There are two beautiful verses. So one in Proverbs, it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So eventually your parents are going to let go of you, whether it's through when you get married or you move out to work and study. And that my parents have always made sure that I was ready for that. And they've always planted the seeds and reminded me to put God in the center of my works and my studies, and to always remember him in everything that I do. So when I'm alone for a certain period of time, or when I move on to the next chapter of my life, I don't forget that. And also another verse from Ephesians, and you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. So, and that is from Ephesians. So always to remind your children to love God in all that they do. And then eventually you would enter the elderly stage of life, and you're not forgotten. There are many church services to keep elderly connected. There are church trips. We have a Coptic hostel, liturgies, Bible studies, special visitations for the elderly, and the youth do that. So probably my most prominent memory of my Sunday school life is when I used to visit the elderly in the Coptic hostel on Palm Sunday, which marked the beginning of a Holy Week just before Easter. And we would help the elderly make little donkeys out of the leaves, because on Palm Sunday Jesus rode a donkey, and he rode through Jerusalem, and everyone put palms on the floor. So we would help them out, make little palm-shaped donkeys, donkey-shaped palm leaf, and we would sing beautiful hymns. And that is, I always remember this every Palm Sunday, and I always try to do it as well. You can just go and check up on the elderly, because a lot of them don't have family members, or they're alone, their partner has passed away. So again, when you serve someone, that ripple effect takes place, and that person will serve the next person that they see, and it will always continue. A little special initiative just to finish off my presentation as well. So one of my youth servants, who is a parent of his own, Sharif right here, these are his parents, and they were awarded the Order of Australia Medal this year because they started an elderly club, a senior citizens club in their church, where they would pretty much gather on a weekly basis at church and connect with older people that were alone or just needed someone to play games with or talk with. And they would also help out people who needed assistance to commuted to their medical appointments, or just need some translation services. And they've run this for many, many years because they themselves understood that when they moved to a new country, they understood that feeling of loneliness and the importance of a community. And they started this seniors club at their local Coptic Orthodox church, and it's grown so much. And they're very much deserving of this award because of their hard work. And they understood that just how they were served when they first migrated here, and because they're so involved in the church service, and they understand that one of the beautiful teachings of Christianity is to serve other people. They did the same thing, and they're serving now the vulnerable in their community, and they just keep that ripple effect going. So there, like I said, there are various different ways the church has services for different age demographics, and that is how they maintain their active connection to the church. And it all just starts off when you're a child in the beginning of that life cycle, where your parents plant the seeds, the church plants the seeds, and that your love for church and the service eventually grows. And I'm very thankful to be part of the Coptic Orthodox community, and to be part of such a supportive group of people who have helped me through so many things, especially during lockdown. And I couldn't be thankful for such loving connections. So just to finish off my presentation, I know we're going through a very difficult time right now, and there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of difficulties facing different people. This is one of my favorite Bible verses that my priest reminded me of a few days ago when I was expressing my anxieties, and it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, but by prayer and supplication, With thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guide your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And that photo, it's a beautiful photo of Jesus holding a little lamb sheep, and it just reminds you that it comes from a story where Jesus finds a lost sheep. That there's 99, there are 100 sheep, and there's one that is lost. So he has the 99, and he can't find the final one, and he goes out to look for that final lost sheep. And it just reminds you that God is not chasing after the people that are grounded. God is always there knocking on the hearts of those that need him most and those who are lost. And I've definitely felt very lost throughout the past 2 years during the pandemic, but this is the verse and this is the imagery that I'm always reminded of by my community and by my spiritual father. So yeah, thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate this opportunity.
I want to thank you very much for informing us about the history of the Coptic Church, which is a fascinating history, a very ancient history. But it's also so exciting to listen to you and the work that your youth does in the church, because that prepares you right through life. So you go from childhood on through all the different stages of life, and in the end, you're there to help the elderly as well. So you're preparing all those little children for their role in life. Thank you so much, and keep up the enthusiasm, because it's very, very important for a community to be able to keep together and to support each other.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.